On a return flight to Washington, D.C., Donald Trump took questions from reporters, but then he had an on camera meltdown at one reporter in particular because that reporter works for the conservative Wall Street Journal, a sister publication of Fox News, attacking this reporter because the Wall Street Journal has previously criticized Trump. It's a pretty shocking scene that's becoming increasingly common as Trump becomes increasingly thin skinned and volatile. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, it's becoming increasingly common for the sitting president of the United States to publicly lash out at not just reporters and the media in general, but even conservative outlets, publications, reporters, and hosts, including at Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. So we're going to play this clip and unpack it together.
Who are you with?
Wall Street Journal.
That's right. Well, you people treat us so bad. Wall Street Journal has truly gone to hell. Go ahead. They're a rotten newspaper. You hear me? What I said? It's a rotten newspaper. I wouldn't tell the Wall Street Journal because it'd be wasting my time. There are talks, but I don't want to talk to the Wall Street Journal. But look, Wall Street Journal is China-oriented, and they're really bad for this country. Go ahead.
So that's a reporter from the conservative Wall Street Journal, a sister publication of Fox News. So these things are ideologically predisposed to grade Trump on a curve and favor him. And this reporter asked a perfectly fair question about the alleged conversations happening between Donald Trump and China, which China has denied. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has also indicated is not true. And instead, Trump doesn't even answer the question. He just insults the reporter, insults his employer, and then permits the reporter to ask the question, but then doesn't answer the question and just again attacks the Wall Street Journal. Not for the first time, I might add. Trump recently on Truth Social went on one of many rants about Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. He says, Rupert Murdoch has told me for years that he's going to get rid of his Fox News Trump-hating fake pollster, but he's never done so. This pollster has gotten me and MAGA wrong for years. Also, and while he's at it, he should start making changes at the China-loving Wall Street Journal. It sucks. This guy can't handle a modicum of criticism. He just can't do it. He's so fragile and thin-skinned, and he's the most powerful man on earth. That's a dangerous combination. And on top of that, we've already seen in these past 100 days and some change that Trump has used the powers of the presidency to target his political opponents, or those whom he believes are his political opponents in the legal profession and in the media. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's another, if the FCC starts, investigating Fox to try to get revenge at the Wall Street Journal, or if there are executive orders targeting the Wall Street Journal explicitly. It's not out of the question because they've occasionally criticized him. Pretty deranged, pretty unhinged, and increasingly common, which is disturbing in and of itself. I want to play some other clips. During that flight and after the flight, once Trump made it back to the White House, with him taking questions from reporters.
General Flynn! I saw a friendly face over here. Well, we gave some information on the plane. I think we covered everything carefully and in great detail. You probably have seen it. Have you seen the information from the plane?
I have, but just a couple of questions. Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally, that would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, it's got quite a history, frankly. Yeah. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
It's a symbol for whatever it is. What? So Alcatraz is one of the most iconic and infamous prisons in the history of the United States. It's been derelict for years. Trump orders, as Axios reports, the reopening of enlarged Alcatraz prison. Trump said Sunday he's directed government departments to rebuild and reopen Alcatraz, the notorious California prison turned tourist attraction. Alcatraz housed prisoners, including the gangster Al Capone, before it was closed as a prison in 1963 because it was expensive to run, and the U.S. government, quote, found that it was more cost effective to build a new institution than keep it open, per the Federal Bureau of Prisons Post. Quote, for too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders, the dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering, Trump said on Truth Social. Quote, no longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. Quote, that is why today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen a substantially enlarge and rebuild Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders, Trump added. Quote, we will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. The reopening of Alcatraz will serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice. We will make America great again. Also point out that Trump complaining like, these judges, they want due process for everybody. Yeah, that's the whole point. And it doesn't matter if it's not particularly convenient. That's the whole point. Due process is not to be beholden to convenience. That's why we have it, because the dangers of an executive that prioritizes convenience over justice, quite robust, extraordinary dangers. So, Axios reports Alcatraz Island was originally the site of a military fort in the 19th century. The, quote, maximum security, minimum privilege penitentiary opened on the island in San Francisco Bay in 1934. No successful escapes were recorded in its 29 years of operations, although the FBOP notes 5 prisoners were listed as, quote, missing and presumed drowned. The island that's near San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge now attracts some 1.2 million visitors every year. Asked why he's reopening Alcatraz and where he got the idea from, Trump told reporters at the White House Sunday evening, quote, it's a symbol of law and order. What they're saying, quote, the Bureau of Prisons will comply with all presidential orders, said FBOP spokesperson in an emailed statement Sunday evening, quote, when we get additional information, we will be happy to provide it. The Trump administration has been involved in several standoffs with courts over the deportation of undocumented immigrants to El Salvador. Trump has also spoken of sending, quote, homegrown criminals who've been convicted of crimes to foreign prisons to serve sentences despite being U.S. citizens. Trump told reporters Sunday evening as he addressed his plans to reopen Alcatraz, quote, so many of the radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every person that's in our country illegally. Again, due process is constitutionally obligated to everybody, regardless if the executive finds it convenient or inconvenient. Representatives from the White House, DOJ, FBI, Homeland Security did not immediately respond to Axios' request for comments Sunday evening on how the administration plans to fund the rebuilding and reopening of Alcatraz, how much it expects to cost, and when it plans to reopen it. But there you go. So much for waste, fraud, and abuse. We got to cut down the waste, fraud, and abuse. I just see this island here. Looks cool. We're going to spend however many millions of dollars to, renovate and rebuild it and resecure it, make it larger. It's insane. But Trump's never been about fiscal responsibility in the first place. Some other clips I want to play concern the now vacant position of National Security Advisor, which is temporarily being occupied by Lil Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. 2 names have popped up in relation to a more permanent occupant of that particular job, and they are both very disturbing names. And so we're going to start with this one.
It's, a lot of people say it really works in with what Marco's doing, but we have a lot of people. I'm going to be naming somebody, but we will make I would say within 6 months. He would do the job permanently, but I think it's, it's an appropriate job.
Are you considering Stephen Miller? For that?
Stephen Miller is at the top of the totem pole. I think he sort of indirectly already has.
So Stephen Miller is the, he's, again, one of the comic book villains in the employ of the Trump administration, perhaps the worst outside of Trump and Musk themselves. He's the deputy White House chief of staff who nominally reports to Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, but we've seen signs that Stephen Miller really is the power behind the throne in many respects. He's shaping certainly federal policy, number one, and number two, he's speaking to cabinet secretaries who outrank him by their first names, indicating that, they're on a more personal basis, right? That they're friends or peers, or that he's their superior, instead of referring to him as Secretary Rubio, Secretary Bessent, Secretary so on and so forth, Duffy. So Yeah, giving him more power like that's not a good sign whatsoever, especially given his white supremacist, white nationalist views. But he's already highly positioned within the Trump administration already. Here's the other disturbing name.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, General Flynn. I like General Flynn.
So they're asking, well, what about General Flynn, Mike Flynn? Okay, so I'll remind you. Let's take a trip down memory lane. It's relevant. Trump's next national security advisor will be his sixth, again, according to Axios. Even for a president known for cycling through staff, the national security advisor role is particularly prone to turnover. Trump's first national security advisor quickly resigned and later ended up in court. His next two clashed with him while in office and harshly criticized him afterwards. Now the fifth, Mike Wallace, is on his way out the door. And again, we talked about Mike Walls, blah, blah, blah. President Biden just had one national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, throughout his term. President Obama had three over the course of 8 years. President Bush and President Clinton, each had two. Let's start with this one. Mike Flynn. That's the name there. January 20th, 2017 to February 13th, 2017. So a little less than a month. Flynn served as Trump's first national security advisor for less than a month in 2017. He was fired for lying to former Vice President Mike Pence. He also twice pled guilty to charges from the Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. Okay. And Trump pardoned him in 2020. The retired general has resurfaced as a prominent MAGA world voice and frequent conspiracy theorist. This is a guy who's indicated that former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley should perhaps be executed for treason. Right? This guy is deranged and fanatical. He's basically Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, but with some military experience behind him. He's totally abandoned his constitutional bona fides, his oaths to support the Constitution, to basically be part of the Trump cult. And many people are wondering, well, are you going to bring him back as national security advisor? That would be utterly disastrous as well. So there you have it. Trump having a meltdown when just face-to-face with a Wall Street Journal reporter. How dare you work for this conservative outlet that's otherwise inclined to agree with me, but I'm screwing up so spectacularly that even they occasionally criticize me. And then hinting that maybe somebody like Stephen Miller or Mike Flynn will be back in the White House, or at least Miller's already there as deputy chief of staff, but either accrue more power by having even more brought under his remit, or the position may go to somebody like Mike Flynn. Yeah, that's where we are. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.